Hi, my name is Rich Williams and I'm the Scrimshaw teacher at William Holland. I'm going to take a few minutes today and run you through the class and give you an introduction to it. The first thing people are going to ask is, what's Scrimshaw? Well, Scrimshaw is an old nautical art form that started on the whaling ships back in the 1700s. The sailors had a lot of free time on their hands and they would carve and etch whalebone and whale teeth. As time went on, it became more of a well-known nautical art form. But when the Civil War came, the age of whaling ended, and Scrimshaw became sort of the type of thing you'd find in souvenir shops near the ocean, where sailors would make it and then sell it. Since that time, it's kind of diminished in popularity, but there's a hardcore group of people who still do it and keep the art form alive. And that's one thing I enjoy about teaching the class, is keeping the art form alive. Now, one of the first things people say about the Scrimshaw class is they can't take it because they can't draw. And the truth of the matter is, I'd rather have students who can't draw, because we cover things in the class like basic drawing, perspective, how to draw mountains, oceans, clouds, all the things you're going to need to flesh out your piece of work. In the class, you'll have a kit with all your tools, which you'll keep, and about 4 or 5 different pieces of material to work on, ranging anywhere from woolly mammoth ivory to elk antler to artificial ivory to mother of pearl, togwa nuts, and sometimes just plain bone. Part of the class, the purpose is to familiarize you with the different material that's out there, so that when you leave the class, if you want to keep doing it, you've got everything you need, you know where to get your tools, know how to maintain them, and get all your material. Okay, now the technique itself is pretty simple. First thing you've got to do is to get a pattern or picture that you like. Just for the sake of discussion, we're going to say you've seen this picture somewhere and you really like it, and you would like to make it into a piece of Scrimshaw. Okay, the first thing you're going to do then is to take the picture and trace it to get an outline of the main features of the item that you want to scrim. In this case, it's the lighthouse. You're going to reduce it to a much smaller piece to fit the size of the material you want to work on. In this case, we've got a piece of artificial ivory, and we've reduced the lighthouse to fit the size of the artificial ivory. All right, we're going to glue it on the piece with rubber cement. We use rubber cement because it'll be easy to take off later. Now, this is very similar to the technique that the whalers used back in the 1700s. They would start with the pattern taken from magazines and trace it as best they could. Once you've got the piece of pattern glued to the piece of Scrimshaw, you're going to take your initial tool, which is just a craft knife with an X-Acto blade, and I'm going to cut the outlines, pressing hard enough to cut the outlines through the paper and to leave a mark on the plastic. Now, this is one of the techniques that you're going to learn the first day of the class, is cutting techniques. And we all have to make sure we cut hard enough, because if you don't cut hard enough, then you don't get the cut into your material. So for the sake of time, we're going to shorten the steps. But in this case, what you would do is cut every outline, and after you've done that, then you're going to peel your paper off. And as you can see, the different pieces where you cut indicate that you've made enough. If you could see it close up, you would feel there are the cuts of the pattern on your piece of material. Next, we take India ink, just standard India ink that you buy at an art supply store, and we're going to lightly dip our brush into the ink and cover the area that we've cut. we don't put too much ink on it, because depending on the material you're working with, you're going to have problems with staining if you're not careful. Now in the class, you're going to be doing multiple cuts and inkings for a piece. And depending on the size and the amount of detail, a piece can take several hours. Some people ask me, what can they expect out of the class? The average student will do between 4 and a dozen pieces of Scrimshaw in a week. It depends on the size and it depends on the detail. So there is no fixed number. What I'm doing right now, I'm taking a lightly damp cloth and wiping off the excess ink. And what you can see now is where the outline has retained the ink. So what you've got is a miniaturized version of your outline. Now what I'm going to do next is continue to add detail. We'll do shading, we'll add the details of the lighthouse, we'll draw a hill similar to the initial pattern. Because you see here, it's these different features that give your piece perspective and make it look a little bit more realistic and not just a simple outline drawing. And like I said, in the class, this simple piece, which is one of the first pieces you'll do, we devote about 2 hours to it. And when you're done, you will have something similar to this. And as you can see, we've got the shading, the details of the roof, the smoke coming out of the chimney, the clouds, the birds, the trees. All these things help turn a very simple two-dimensional drawing into more of a three-dimensional picture. Now, once you finish this piece, you can do several different things with it, depending on the size and what it is. You can make earrings, pendants, you can turn it into a plaque, a gift plaque. A lot of people will make belt buckles with a Scrimshaw insert. It's really kind of limited to your imagination, but everyone likes getting handmade gifts, and the ability of Scrimshaw is you can do a pattern that a person really likes. I had one student who, when he left the class, went back and started doing pictures of people's dogs in color. And he had really a lot of success and a good reception of that by making pendants with people's dogs on it. So if this is of interest to you, come take the class. You'll learn a lot of different things. You'll learn how to maintain your tools. We'll do color, we'll do line cuts, we'll do stippling. Now, if you'd like to see some more work, I've got a web page. It's scrimshawandmore.com. scrimshawandmore.com. On there, I've got a lot of pictures of my work, but I've also got a student gallery, which has several photos of pieces of Scrimshaw that some of my students have done. And this is the type of work that you can do in a class. So come take the class. If you don't take the Scrimshaw class, come take a class at William Holland. It's a great place. If you want to learn a little bit more about the history of Scrimshaw, I have a podcast on folk craft revival. It's Scrimshaw, I think it's his podcast 21, and we talk a lot about the history of it. If you'd like any more information or know more about the class, look at my webpage. My phone number and email's on there. Give me a call. It'd be nice to hear from you. Thanks a lot. Bye. Now what we've got here are some pictures of 3 different pieces of work that have been finished. This piece is on fossilized Walters. It's a wolf baying over a nature scene. Here's a lighthouse scene on a piece of woolly mammoth ivory, and here's a leaping deer. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Thanks for watching.